U.S. military shoots down another object, this time over Lake Huron.
What are these objects? Where are they coming from? What is their purpose?
What's gone on the last, 2 weeks or so, 10 days, has been nothing short of craziness.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And this is the story with everything: spying, World War III, UFOs, aliens, and claims of government cover-ups. Ending with the US president coming close to pricking the bubble.
A stunning admission from the US President Joe Biden that the week of fear, uncertainty and concern about these unidentified balloons above the states could have all been for nothing.
So, how did it all begin? Around 2 weeks ago, a huge white balloon was spotted flying over Alaska. 200 feet tall, with an undercarriage the size of 3 school buses, it was flying higher than a plane and being used by China, the US said, to spy on America. Cue panic and alarm.
Is that bioweapons in that balloon? Did that balloon take off from Wuhan?
Did it drop and disperse surveillance products powered by solar energy to allow unlimited surveillance?
Short answer, no and no. But after days of will we, won't we, US planes took it out of the sky, much to the amusement of TEN's The Project.
I'm on the top of the world, looking down on creation.
A single Sidewinder missile fired by an F-22 fighter jet sent the balloon to a shallow grave off the South Carolina coast.
Order the Pentagon to shoot it down.
And while no one was harmed or infected by a deadly virus, China's response had Britain's Daily Star hitting the panic button. And former Fox News megastar Glenn Beck also hyped up the danger by tweeting this alarming video to his 1.6 million followers.
The Chinese spy balloon proves something that perhaps we should have realized years ago. We are at war with China, and we have been for some time.
China did fess up to owning the balloon, but claimed it was a civilian airship blown off track. Then, 3 other flying objects were shot down by US planes. One cigar-shaped, one octagonal with strings hanging off it, and another the size of a car blown to bits. And no one knew what the hell they were. So, naturally, the New York Times put the obvious question to US General Glenn Van Herk.
Have you ruled out aliens or extraterrestrials, and if so, why? Because that is what everyone is asking us right now.
And amazingly, the man running US air defense replied,
I haven't ruled out anything at this point.
Whereupon the media had a field day, with Britain's Daily Star winning the prize.
We can't rule out aliens.
Adding in a 2-page spread inside,
We told you so.
But experts were soon downing the ET theory, with astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson telling CNN,
aliens moving across the galaxy and then dropping some balloons? What alien would do that? I don't want to meet those aliens. I don't want the low-tech aliens.
And one day after the general had set the rumours flying, the White House squashed them hard.
Again, no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns. I loved E.T., the movie, but I'm just going to leave it there.
But as some breathed a sigh of relief and others refused to believe the denials, there was a new development, with President Biden addressing a jittery nation to say,
We don't yet know exactly what these 3 objects were, but nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country.
So, if the cigar, octagon and small car were not snooping, what were they doing? Former US National Security boss John Bolton was offering up one idea to Nine's Today Show.
It's possible that we shot down a history class's missing project or a science class's balloon. I don't know. That could well be.
And what about the Chinese spy balloon, which the communists flew over the US to steal its secrets? On Thursday, the Herald Sun suggested a shock balloon backflip might pop that theory too, with the US admitting it had tracked the balloon for a week from China's Hainan Island and that it first headed south towards the Pacific. So, maybe, the Hun reported,
China was telling the truth that force majeure, or bad weather, blew the balloon off course before an unintentional incursion into American airspace.
Whoops, which meant
the escalating international crisis has been a mistake.
Thus far, the US has not admitted that it was wrong on that. But how to explain its other incompetence. Scores of people on social media, including a few Russian and Chinese bots, suggested it was all designed to take our gaze away from a real disaster, like this chemical fire in Ohio, or to stop journalists investigating the alleged and unproven US sabotage of Russia's Nord Stream gas pipeline. As famous fugitive whistleblower Edward Snowden put it on Twitter,
I wish it were aliens, but it's not aliens. It's just the old engineered panic, ensuring national security reporters get assigned to investigate balloon bullshit rather than budgets or bombings.
Slight problem with that. The US shot down the balloon several days before the Nord Stream allegations were made by veteran reporter Seymour Hersh. But now let's come back to Earth, to a bit of billionaire biffo in the media.
It's a battle between the giants of mining and media, a billionaire's rift laid bare by Andrew Forrest, who launched into a scathing speech in front of staff over the coverage of his company Fortescue in the West Australian newspaper.
Yes, from the land of big mining and big egos, two of Australia's richest men are at war.
It's essentially a contest in the West between two big swinging businessmen.
Billionaires. We can say it.
Andrew Forrest and Kerry Stokes can both command huge public attention. But Stokes also owns a media empire, which includes Seven and the West Australian. And Twiggy says it has been weaponised against him. At least that's what he told his staff in a meeting last week, which just happened to be recorded and leaked to the media.
The West commentary on this and many other matters has been biased, inflammatory and, above all, inaccurate. This could well be driven by narrow, self-seeking commercial interest.
And what might that self-seeking commercial interest be? As Business News, which broke the story, wrote on Tuesday,
Andrew Forrest has told Fortescue's staff that a decision to pick German giant Liebherr over WestTrac for a major contract has caused a rift with billionaire Kerry Stokes' empire.
Climate-conscious Forrest supposedly bought German trucks because they were better equipped to green his fleet, snubbing Caterpillar trucks sold by Stokes. And in retaliation, Stokes turned the guns of Seven and the West against him, or so Forrest claims. Here is the mining magnate on Wednesday, singling out a reporter from the West Australian on a media call to discuss Fortescue's latest profit results.
We've had some really salacious misreporting, inaccurate, trying to put fear into the West Australian community.
So, did the paper hit back? You bet. On Thursday, the West had a double-page spread on Fortescue's profits downgrade. And underneath, reporter Danielle Lemesurier told readers about Twiggy's attack, explaining
what it feels like to be singled out by Australia's richest man for simply doing your job as a reporter.
Forrest accuses our newspaper of inaccurate reporting. However, the same could be said of his attack on our coverage, which remains unsubstantiated.
And that point was rammed home in a rare front-page editorial from the West Australian's editor, Anthony De Segli, where he defended the paper's reporting and added,
My email has always been open to Mr. Forrest or any of his staff to specifically point out supposed inaccuracies.
So, is this a case of a billionaire baby spitting the dummy about less than adoring coverage? Maybe. But the Financial Review's Perth Bureau reported last week
there has been a marked change in the West's coverage of Dr. Forrest and Fortescue since mid-December, based on an analysis of its reporting.
And two other Perth media people we've spoken to felt the same. And we have no doubt it is true. So, why might that be? Well, it's not the trucks, according to Kerry's son Ryan Stokes, CEO of the family holding company, who told The Australian that happened long ago.
Fortescue's decision not to buy trucks from leading equipment provider WestTrac dates back more than 12 months, as Ryan Stokes coolly told The Australian on Wednesday.
And it's not because of orders from on high, says Ryan again, insisting their newsrooms have complete independence from the Stokes family. But the West, which is not a member of the Press Council, certainly has run some tough coverage on Forrest's green energy plans, for example.
Is hydrogen dream a lot of hot air?
With this gloomy front-page prediction earlier this month.
Fortescue could axe up to 1,800 workers.
Twiggy's green dream turns into a nightmare.
Multiple executive departures from Forrest's companies have also become tabloid fodder.
Exodus? Nah. It's fake news.
Twiggy turns to Trump's excuse to defend staff woes.
And more recently, Fortescue was back on the front page over allegations of sexual harassment on its mine sites.
Twiggy's iron ore miner accused of not supplying documents on 34 cases of sexual harassment.
That story is clearly in the public interest, and the paper should keep watch on one of WA's biggest businesses and its owner's lofty ambitions. But it's clear the framing of much of the coverage is negative. The Fortescue spokesperson told us,
"We welcome the scrutiny that comes with a free press. However, the West's coverage has gone far beyond fair scrutiny."
Adding,
"They have failed time and time again to provide a fair right of reply."
So, is that right? And is the coverage beyond fair scrutiny? The West's editor-in-chief told us,
"Everyone is focusing on the individual billionaire versus billionaire aspect of this. But in reality, we have a massive $69 billion mining company upset because it doesn't like the reporting of facts or news. Fortescue Metals Group behaving in the manner they are should be a concern to anyone who takes our profession seriously and believes in journalism without fear or favour."
So, what is our verdict? Well, it's always been a problem that one of WA's biggest businessmen, with a wide range of commercial interests, owns WA's biggest media group. But we have to say, we've seen a lot worse than this. So, we're inclined to agree with Crikey founder and corporate governance activist Stephen Mayne, who writes,
"Sorry, Mr. Forrest, but media scrutiny is a good thing, and you're being way too sensitive on this one. However, it's always healthier when billionaires fight rather than collaborate, so keep it up."
Maybe it's time for the two billionaires to have lunch together and nut it out. We don't think anyone else needs to intervene. And you can read a full statement from Fortescue on our website. And finally, to the latest SOS from Australia's regional media.
There are dark days ahead for communities across New South Wales, unless our next state government acts to help local news. These are perilous times for local newspapers in New South Wales. Higher prices for newsprint, rising costs of production and distribution, cutthroat competition for ad revenue from digital giants.
Yes, as any Media Watch viewer would know, life has been tough in regional newsrooms for a while. So what do? Use page 1 of your paper to warn of impending doom.
Unless our next state government acts to help local news.
That Newcastle Herald front page last Wednesday was repeated across all New South Wales daily papers owned by Australian Community Media, or ACM, plus more than 30 weekly mastheads. And it was published as the state ramps up to an election only 5 weeks away. So, what do they want Liberal and Labor parties to do?
Hey Dom and Chris, will you make the Dan Andrews pledge?
The Dan Andrews pledge was a promise to give public handouts in the form of newspaper ads, including a guaranteed full-page government ad in every title every week. ACM also wants New South Wales to reverse a 2020 law that allowed councils to bypass local papers and run public notices on their websites instead. That change has cut council ad spending with the group in half, says ACM. And according to one editor we spoke to, a weekly full-page government ad is worth up to $150,000 a year to a newsroom. So, what if the New South Wales government does not cough up? ACM boss Tony Kendall says more of its mastheads will close, adding,
"We're not campaigning for self-interest. We're campaigning for regional journalism, not just ACM. We're campaigning to keep journalists' jobs and so that regional communities have access to credible local content."
One paper already calling for salvation is ACM's 130-year-old Port Stephens Examiner. And making the case on social media is one of its hard-working journalists.
My name's Alana and I'm a 24-year-old journalist with the Port Stephens Examiner and I need your help. So here's how you can help save the Examiner. Send a letter of support, subscribe or take an ad.
But not all regional papers have the begging bowl out. Port Stephens also has an independent outlet called News of the Area. And Michael Wright, who runs it, told Media Watch,
"If a business is reliant upon receiving grants because of continual challenges, then I don't think that business is viable. I want to distance ourselves from the doom and gloom. It might be dark for ACM, but it's not for all newspapers."
Another competitor critical of ACM's campaign is The Beagle, which is based on the New South Wales South Coast. In a scathing editorial last week, editor Lee Parker took aim at ACM, arguing,
"Possibly the primary cause of their loss of revenue is that they offer scant news in their print editions that are quite often cloned pieces across the mastheads in the region."
ACM's co-owner is Anthony Catalano, who made a fortune with Nine's Domain property portal. And he now has a major stake in a potentially very profitable rival website called Real Estate View, which is promoted by ACM mastheads and into which ANZ tipped $50 million a fortnight ago. So, is it reasonable for his newspapers to be crying poor to government? Taxpayers have already pitched $4 million into ACM after a similar campaign during the last federal election. And we're not convinced the group deserves more, especially since a letter to investors 6 months ago said that ACM's digital revenue and subscriptions were growing and that the business was performing well. That's all from us for tonight. Don't forget Media Bites, Thursdays on Facebook, YouTube and iView. But for now, until next week, goodbye.